Ia mo le atu whaftaitele mo le matua manoa. O le tai au nei sa mawhai o na whamai a ina le ngā luenga whauwhautua a le society o lo ia Samoa. E ala le ile mātou whiutanga i ngā muli ma le komiti whapitoa le palemene. Leo lo o ngafa ma le ilo ina o tula whono tau wha au fie tolu, leo wai luma nei o le palemene. E au fie ai i le tula whono tau wha au fi o le te unga o le whaavai o Samoa, o le tula whono tau wha au fi o whanua masuafa, ia ma le tula whono tau wha au fi o whamusinonga o sori ngā tula whono. Ia, ua mai ala le mātou whiutanga i ngā mani komiti, ma ua tu i nātu ai ia se ola sanga manino ale society o lo ia i ni atu ngalunga o lo tu maupea i te tono le mātou society. E winga i tula whono tau wha ofi nei e lima ni vaenga i lo nao te lenga o lo o mafua ai ni atu ngalunga ale society. O le vaenga mua o le ave e sea lea o ai ata tau whare tula whono a tangata o e o lo o iaini ala tomta upu e ilo ina ilu mo le whamusinonga o whanua masuafa o le vaenga lona lua o le petia lea o le tūlanga tūto o tasi o le whamusinonga i te tongo Samoa o lona tolu o le whaavaivaia lea o le tūto o tasi o i tū e tolu o le tafa tolu o whainga malo whatemokorasi o le lona wha o le vailua ina lea o le whamusinonga o Samoa i le tūma vai ai o le whamusinonga maualunga po le Supreme Court ia ma le whamusinonga o whanua masuafa po le Lands and Titles Court ma le lona lima o le apa mai lea o le malo e whaatūra whonoina mea sina a Samoa e ala lea i le ule aina i lalo tūla whono o tū mahanga nuu wha Samoa o vaenga nā Samoa moli ai ia le mātou folasanga o amatu watunga lunga na ilumo o le komiti whapito le palemene ma ua mai ai na ia le ngā luenga whauwhautua lea ale society e tusa ai o lona tūla whono whaavai leo lo iai le mātou tiu te ma le mātou matawhai o i tau ave o le tau longo i ni tūla whono e ono tūla i mai ai ia ni pēwhea o li whawhita o li mō tangata Samoa i le numanai o le mātou tari tanunga mau tutu e iai ia vaenga o tūla whono tau whaofi nei ai meise o tūla whono ia o le atu e te wina ni whaavai o Samoa e ono mafua mai ai ia ni whaale e tonu po ni whawhita o i le lumanai ma o le mātou whiau o momoli i lumo le komiti whapito le palemene ia toe liu le tō wha ia toe sila i te unga nei ia pe e iai ni vaenga e te tauna toi suia ma toi te wina ina ia avea i o le tūla whono e manuia ia tatou tangata ia e momoli le whawhitai tele i le mamadu le atunuu sa o lātou lango sua i le ngā luenga o le society e momoli lo whawhitai i le komiti whapitoa o le palemene mo le avanoa tāua sa mawhai o na mātou whiutanga i le aso e momoli le whawhitai i le whailau tusi o le whono au whaitula whono o Samoa ma le mamalu o le matanga luenga o le whono mo le tapena ina o i tū uma sa mawhai ei o na whatinu ina le mātou whiutanga inga i le tai au nei ia o le whawhitai whapitoa e moli lea i le mamalu o le society i lona ngā luenga whita sa whiangai ma sui o le society o le tapena pena lea o le mātou mau e momoli lea ilunga o le komiti whapito o le palemene e iai ia sui o le mātou society sa ngafa whapitoa lava ma le tapena ina o lea folasanga ia o peona iai ia le fionga ia Taulapapa Brenda ia masui o le komiti whapito o le society lea sa ngafa ma le ngā luenga tele lea e momoli atu ai le whawhitai ia o le whautuanga po se tua lalo i le mamalu o tatou atunu o e o loo au mau i Samoa nei o e fo o loo au i atunu mamau ia o le o ngā luenga o le tapena ina o ni tūla whono mō le tatou atunu o le ngā luenga e whautele o le ngā luenga e tofu sau mai ei tangata anu uma o Samoa e leo se ngā luenga e whai e ni tangata toa i titi e lo se vaenga fo e whai na o le palemene pe na o le kapeneta pe na o le malu o le ngaluenga lea e te tau ono tofu sa umai tātou a whai e te whaata waina ia tūlafono nei ma awhianga o tūlafono nei o lo iai lawe le awa noa o le isi la asanga o lo tutoe mo ai le ipasi e ina pe whama maluina tūlafono nei o le whaia lea o se pālota i to tono o le maota o le parimene e whaapālota ina ai e sui mamalo tātou maota ia tūlafono nei pe ono pasia pe le ai a whai e o lo maua se fesota inga male sui fai pule o lo tau i tūmalo o lo maua pele awa noa o lo iai lawa le taimi e te fesini ngi ai e te savalia ai e sui fai pule o lo tau malo i tūmalo ia ma whao iai ia se fina ngalo ia po se au ia e fai masui o lo tau i tūmalo ia o te whamatalanga le i nei tūlao le aso e mo le atu whaftai tele i sui uma o le media po o sui o le awhai o le autustusi ia ma moe o o mawhai o whaatino ia whai fesota inga i longo ala tele vavave mo le awanoa ta ua leo mau le tai au nei ia whai statu whiutanga inga whaftai mo le awanoa. Yeah, good morning everyone. Thank you very much for this opportunity to front the media and for me to speak on behalf of the Samoa Law Society in terms of the work that has been done by the Law Society to express views on the three bills that are currently before Parliament. These are the Constitutional Amendment Bill, the Judicature Bill, and the Lands and Title Bill, all of 2020. This morning we were able to meet with the Select Parliament Committee that is currently receiving views from the general public on these three bills, and we were able to present the view of the Samoa Law Society in respect of these three bills. We maintain that there are serious concerns with the contents of the bills, and there are five main concerns that we have presented to the Select Committee, which we maintain. These are the removal of the ability of people who go before the Lands and Titles Court to enforce their fundamental human rights as protected under the Constitution. The removal of the Lands and Titles Court from the supervisory jurisdiction of the Supreme Court for the protection of fundamental human rights that are in the Constitution. Thirdly, the provisions that are in the bills by which government and the new Lands and Titles Court will be able to define customs and usages in our country. In other words, the government will have a say in defining what is our culture. That is one of the major concerns for the society. Fourthly is the effects that the bills will have on the independence of the judiciary with the removal of the protections that currently exist for the tenure of judges in the Supreme Court. And finally, the effects that these bills will have on the separation of powers as protected under the Constitution. The main concerns by the Law Society are that the democratic principles that are protected under the Constitution will be affected and will be diluted as a result of the passage of these three bills. As far as the Law Society is concerned, and I speak on behalf of our members, our work in presenting and voicing these concerns has come to an end today with the final appearance before the Select Committee of Parliament. We wish to thank the Chair and the members of the committee for the opportunity that was given to us to appear this morning and to present our views. We thank the Secretary of the Legislative Assembly for all of the arrangements that made it possible for us to make our presentation this morning. I'd like to express my personal thanks to the members of the Law Society who have contributed to the formulation of our written submission that was presented today. A special thanks to the chair of the special subcommittee, which bore a lot of the work in drafting that submission that contains all of the views, all of the concerns that have been expressed by members of our society. There is still time for members of the general public to express their own views on these important bills before they are passed. There is one final step or phase in the parliamentary process before the bills get passed, and that is at the third reading of the bills. They will be put to a vote of the members of parliament before they can be passed into law. So between now and November, I believe, is the scheduled sitting for the third reading. There is still an opportunity for Samoans all over the world to express their views and to make their views known to their respective members of parliament who represent their constituencies, so that your voice can be heard in the parliamentary process before these bills are passed into law. So I'd like to thank the members of the media who have worked closely with the Law Society over the last few months to help us to present our views to the public and inform and generate awareness of these bills for the public. You've played a very important role, and we appreciate this very much. We hope to continue this work going forward, and you'll be an important part of that process. So thank you very much.
Ole sioilea le ngalwenga whai le society. Ai momoli atu le whaftai. La tau sa langolango ina ia le ngalwenga le society. Ai mesele alik mawhatamaitai le society lo ia Samoa. Ai whapefo I silanga le mamalu fo le atu no malatau ulo o alala I no mama. I le whaalinga fo I alatou whina ngalo le fo ina maua fo ima e fo se avanoa e tututonu fo I le matou tala tustusia. O le tūlanga fo I lava wo I e temi nei o se aia atatau. O le whaalinga ma le whaatinonga o le aia atatau. O le saore tonga e mawhai ona whaali manatu. I se tūla whonga tau whaawhi. Mai o se awanoa foi e whaasala lau I ni mau o ni tā awhi foi. O la tau le whea ngai ma le tūla whonga po le society le ale aluia. E moli atu foi lo whawhtai le tamai I le taitai whono ma le mamalu foi le komiti. Ia ma le whailo tusi le whono awa whai tūla whonga le atu no ona o le awanoa na tu mai e le society mo moli atu e se whea. Ai o le tūlanga foi o se ngā luenga sa whai whaatasi, o se ngā luenga sa ngā luloi whaatasi I a li matamaitai lo ia ni society. Ia mai o tūlanga nā o te mori atu I le whaftai I sui e le so komiti. E le songa pristine ma le mamalu le lau. Ia whape foi mato ainga ma lātou sa langolango ina ma whisosoangi mai mato ngāluinga. Ai e tua tu foi whapito se whaftai le mamalu foi le press ma le media ale atuno. Le na mau e ni avanoa whaatano no e ni mta upu o se mata upu tā ua I le atuno. I'd like to take the chance to thank you for the opportunity to thank Mr. President and also the Council of the Samoa Law Society for the opportunity which I've had to lead a committee of amazingly talented and hardworking lawyers and also representing a number of members of our society and being able to express a view. I think this has never happened before. The Law Society in its 44-year history has never taken the role and the steps that it has taken in relation to these three bills, and it's because it's worried. Because these bills undermine the fundamental fabric of justice in this country, and they also steal away the authority and the discretion of all of us as Samoans to decide what is anganua. Because these bills take away that power from from each one of us and give it to the new Lands and Titles Court. Because in the constitutional amendment it says that they are the supreme authority on custom and usage. And that takes away that authority from the people that live and breathe custom and authority every single day. And that's just one of the concerns that the society has, is that rather than strengthening custom in the country, it actually weakens it by giving it to the Lands and Titles Court. We believe that custom and tradition and its authority over that belongs with the people who are living it. Whether that's in your village or that's in your home, wherever you live, whether that's overseas, you are the people who decide what custom and usage applies for your families. And that's one of the misstatements and misconceptions that's been used to justify the passage of these three bills, and it's not true. The other aspect is that it completely dismantles the justice system that we have now, and that was set up by our ancestors, by the people and our families and our leaders at independence. And what they did, which we continue to marvel at, is they set up a very finely balanced process of the Constitution over everything, and then the courts, and then the Lands and Titles Court and the Supreme Court, and the balance that operates up until now. And these bills will undermine that, because they will take that away, and everything will be under the authority solely of the Lands and Titles Court. And if any of you have ever had a matter in front of the Lands and Titles Court and felt a sense of injustice, then that's what it's going to be like for the next however many years. We're grateful to the Select Committee, the Chair and the members. We're grateful for the ability to express our views. And that's the importance of fundamental rights and freedoms, is that we were able to do that, even though there were personal attacks of the members of the society. But people who profess to live in a democracy need to be able to comment on the things that matter to them and the things that will affect them in the future. And that's the opportunity that we've had to express a view about bills, and the opportunity which the media has to disperse those views. So that's a really good example of where the freedom of expression, the freedom of speech, why it's so important. So people know, and people can express a view, and then people can say to their members of parliament, I'm concerned about this. So this exercise has been one in which the right, the freedom of speech and expression is simply an example of all the other rights that we hold sacred in our Constitution, that everybody should enjoy. But under these bills, they're taken away from people who have a lands and titles matter, and that's not good enough. It's a fundamental change. The change in the courts is a fundamental change, and it's come out of nowhere. So we're asking that the government follow its own procedure when it had the 17-step process is one that all the other bills have to follow except this one. Why? Why is that, except these ones? There's a reason for those policies, and it's so that you get the views of everybody about something before you start drafting a law. The other problem about these bills is because they change the Constitution, they cannot be, if they are passed, these changes cannot be changed again unless there's a 2/3 majority in the House. Now, if at the next election there are some people from not the main party, and that 2/3 is not reached this time around, then it's going to be very difficult to change these provisions. And that's the other reason why we're saying whakaakia. Withdraw them, take them off the order paper, start a policy discussion that you've already started with the villagers, and ask them what they want. Ask them what's wrong with the lands and titles court and make it better. But don't change the Constitution, don't change the justice system. And I guess that's the concern of the technicians, because that's what we are, who work with these things every day. The technicians are saying, hold on here, this is bad, this is wrong. And that's the essence of the submissions that we have filed with the committee, and which we're happy to make available to the press. But thank you for your time, and for those of you who have written and produced articles and run stories on television and on the radio, congratulations. You have honoured your role as the fourth estate in this democracy, because without you there is no freedom of expression. So on behalf of the President and Losani, we need to also thank the members of the media for honouring their role to inform the public. So on that note, may God's hand of grace be upon us all. After.
Taulapapa, just wanted to follow up with your statement. You said Heather-Latu to the committee. Is that one of the recommendations submitted?
Our recommendation is withdraw it and take it off the order paper after the election. If that's what you want to do, then start talking with people first before you start drafting a law. Actually form up policies and identify what your outcomes are going to be, why you're going to change it, what's better, what's not. So at least you have a basis to go and then draft a piece of law, but not drafting the law and then going, what do you think, when it's already too late.
I just want to follow up on what you related to consultation for drafting the bill. So that's one of the concerns you raised, and government then came up and said the community doing this consultation.
Which it's never done before.
It was never done before, but it's been doing. They're doing it now.
Yeah.
They're just complaining about that.
Yeah. Well, Langi, you know, there was an article in the paper saying, we're going to have to cut down the time from 2.5 hours to 1.5 hours. Is that true consultation? And who's explaining what they are? Were we invited to attend to express a view? No, we weren't. Consultation is not just appearing for a few minutes and then disappearing when these bills are highly technical and they need to be properly explained, and the benefits and the disadvantages need to be explained before people can make a choice about whether or not they think it's good. And the question is, were they able to do that?
Ole whelo inga ilia so, e iai ia whautuanga, e iai se vaenga o whautuanga ntuina atu ele society alo ia. I tūlanga fwoi o te unga e whai tūla whono, o nol vaenga lea, sa whesilingi ai al society alo ia le taimi utua nai. Na whesilingi a, au mai lani whina ngalo le society, o ani suinga i te wal tūla whono nei, tau whaofi. Ia o le lasa tuina atu ai lea so, ia nisi o whautuanga i tūlanga fwoi lele o te unga e taona tā pena ia tūla whono tau whaofi. O le tele o nei whautuanga, ia o le aunga, ina ia toi au mai tua ia tūlanga o tūla whono tau whaofi. Whaatele ngese le tūlanga o le tāpena ino tūla whono nei, ai whaatala noa le atu nuu. Ina ia lava tāpena tūla whono tau whaofi ma whainga whaawai. Ina ia manino, ma mala malama le atu nuu. O ane tūla whono ua o tau whaofi mai tonu mō te unga la ne. O no le tā ua tele o tūlanga o tūmanga nuu. Ia ai mai se o lea o lo te ai le whaatatianga o lea, whaamasinonga. Ia ma le tūlanga o le whaawai. O le au te lenga lea o le tūlanga sa tuina tuai ia ni whautuanga i te unga. Ia ma o le mau lava lea society lea o lo o whaawau. Whaatele ngese le process, au mai tua ia, tūla whono tau whaofi. Ia ai whaatala noa ina ia malama o le atu nuu. Ia ona tāpena leile o vaenga mane.
Leiataualesa, you mentioned in your statements that the Samoa society has done its part into the privileges and now they belong to the people. Can you further explain that?
Hey Jack, so one of the functions of the Law Society is to comment on bills that are being proposed by the government, and especially when it's necessary to express concerns about those bills. So the work that we've been doing over the last 4-5 months since these bills were first introduced to Parliament was basically that. It was basically to comment publicly on the concerns that we've had about these bills and generate public discussion and awareness for Samoans in general about how these bills can affect them. And we've also, as we've stated, we've taken our own written submission and presented it to the Select Committee so that it can be on record that these are the concerns held by the Samoan Law Society. So in terms of our function to comment, we believe that we've done that now by engaging with the Select Committee and also working with the media to generate public discussion about these bills.
Ele whaingo whilo whisiri. But at the end of the day, we're lawyers. And as you've recently seen with the electoral act, there is still an opportunity for something else. I think there's always hope as long as we have a constitution that allows us the ability to seek the review of legislation that we think has breached our rights.
I think it's a way to learn a whapopo toiling Samoa. Ole puipuinga, ole mawhanawhananga le gai atato so tangata Samoa lava. Ole whaavaile o Samoa, ole whaavaile tu mawalunga le atulu nei so se toinga tulafon. So ole alo fisilingia, ole ale si stepu. E uia e le society pe a whapea e whaawau lava whina ngalon malo e pasia tula whono nei. I o leo tali atu Taulapapa o le mātou lea matawha i oi whaaloia e Mava ai le tūlanga ia. Ia mava ai fo i le tūlanga whaavai. Ia mai ilo le po o ane si step pe ini si step o lo o avanoa. Ia i le tūlanga o le puikuinga langa lea o lea ia taua. A tatou tangata.
To lower to by even from Mamalu, what if it is real by Mamalu?
Well, it's not dependent on le suinga malo. O mako ngā renga, o le ilo a le tulafono tau whaawhi. It's not about who brings it, it's about the tulafono and it's about le whaawai.
Yeah, I understand that very well.
Yeah.
But le mutato lori te milene, mai ngana tō te tamu whai e aua ne tu e ton. Te au mai ka me whaitau no, vai ngā tō mua le ngā. Leo, o lea o le a... O le tō tasi e loa a whai ngā malo o lo pisirila. What if o whai ngā malo ale nā tō samawhau?
And I guess the answer's the same, Ami. O le pōlenga le society, I tulafono tau whaawhi ia. It's about what's in the bills. And so in terms of your first question, is there something else that will happen if they get passed? And I guess the response is there is always the Constitution and there is always the Supreme Court. Whether or not we decide to do that or individuals decide to do that, I think that we'll have to wait if they're passed or not. And o mako whaupuanga ave kua. Ale ave kua a pasir palemene. Then we're going to have to look at that and decide what to do about it.
October, Taulapapa, you were the first, the society were the first to come out in opposition against the bills. And then we have villages, we have individuals sending submissions, voicing their thoughts and what they think of it. Did you expect that response from the people, the public?
I think what we tried to do as the Law Society was to generate awareness of the bills and what they actually entail, so that exactly that could happen, so that the public could form their own views about what they think about these bills. And of course, I think once people began to understand what the bills were about and what the changes would be under the bills, of course they began to be interested and to express their own views, because as Taulapapa has said, these bills affect every Samoan. Samoans living in Samoa, Samoans living overseas, it affects all of them, because it affects their identity and it affects their heritage. When you talk about matai titles and customary land and matters that go before the Lands and Titles Court, and then when you talk about access to a fair justice system and being able to enforce your own human rights that are in the Constitution, of course that affects everyone. And so for me personally, I wasn't very surprised. I was encouraged and I was happy that there was such widespread public discussion, but it can't be surprising. We can't be surprised that that happens, because these affect everyone who calls himself a Samoan.
Thank you very much. To some extent, do you think that you people should be blamed for all this? If we go right back to the beginning of all this, because there are problems. Yeah, so or whoever it was that was involved. If I may say it's a there are my and yet you did not react. You only reacted afterwards. In the future. This is going to happen all the time. Okay, so fair enough. But I would have opinion.
No.
But should you leave that to the discretion of the man or an opinion, when there should be some kind of firm commitment that I can from there? If someone go there, Because you are the people who guide us.
And
I'm feeling very sad.
Yeah.
Because Liverpool Samoa, we have done the best that we can do. You are the experts. Isn't it time that you insist that anything that goes to government, it must go to you guys. You are the experts.
And le whainga whaavai ale officer lawyer sili that requires them, and also there's a direction in there from the Prime Minister to refer matters and draft bills to the Samoan Law Society. Ngā sori uma mea ngā. Ele whakingoa. So the first that... This is what we did when we got a copy of the bill.
It's the first time anybody knew about it. No, but this is the whole point about no consultation. Nobody knew. No consultation. They didn't follow the process.
We can taking the government to court to say that process has not been observed.
Yeah, blame us, yes. We will take the blame for making everybody aware.
Your profession, because you guys advise the government.
So the alternative, Matailenga, is what? Do nothing.
No. Yeah. Take to court or whatever. I will come back. Never be very like I couldn't remember. And then you just smear the whole integrity of the problem. The problem is we have a problem with the Untitled score. It needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
I never go with Misa.
No. It's a selo whawinga I lo male whaaloalo lava. Na whina ngalon malo e whaila kukula whongo without telling anybody, and they passed it first and second reading. That was the first time wa mawhai o ngā whaikau ia ingi copies ale kula whongo. And it's a selo sangwanga. It wasn't us that was first. It was the judges who put their hands up and said there's a problem with these. We followed when we read it. Whaasolo lole public information process to advise and inform the public of what they were trying to do. Because otherwise it would have been passed in May in third reading.
What if this law will pass if I don't know I sue if I don't know to some court? Or I say si na sama if it will be now a luta up to the Atisea or I be able to laugh on or to laugh on the town to matter. I will sue to the jail, sue to but I say to my sit down to life society.
Ia, tai mole whawhisili. O te tatu nure sa anga ia le saunoanga taule teimi o sola. O le teimi e whitena ia se tula whono ia mare tatu whawai. O le whawai o le tula whono au pitu sili leo na maurunga tatu atunu. Ia ele tā ua o ele a whaina o ai whainga maru o lo tūlai mai teimi na. Ele vai whalo ia. O le tūlanga pitu sili o na tāua, o le iai o se tātou whamasinonga mawarunga, e tūtō tasi mai le mālo. So that's why we've been, one of the concerns that we've raised is that these bills, they undermine the independence of the judiciary. So, as long as we have an independent Supreme Court, there is always an opportunity for us to enforce the Constitution that we have. So if there are legislation or acts that are passed by Parliament that are in breach of the Constitution, then we can take those matters before the Supreme Court to seek a review of those laws. So I'm not saying at this stage that that's going to happen, because right now we still don't know whether the laws will pass, but that is something that lawyers and the society will have to look at when we're a bit further down the track.
Whasingo mai pala mele, not the exact words, but on that level.
Yeah.
Lipa whasingo mai soli pala, ka pe soli vai ma wa ese.
Yeah.
Koe whaila i ole sam kale mui mai, whamai. Ai se a. Awa, le se meo se se. Le se meo se kura whongu. O hau whaape ai lea. Ole makua lukta. Wa le i loa ato se ke roi. A o levo no toku pese le whai tau masina. Talo no toku pese le tula whono le nei o rona winga. Wa le ai ama se ke a panye ko menga whai a. Nasa na mona ia o tō le whaalungu mai pe le o amana i le pāle mia. Lau tō pe pese le whai. Nasa na mona le ia o tō le o mai tini le.
A me a whapea e amana ia uma i sanoanga pale mea ea. O ngi tūlanga tā uanga i le o langa kānka kokas. E whole sanganga whapea o ka aka le langolango ina tūla whono e la mi Samoa. E kaunga amana ia. Ia ua ia, ki le amanga ia. Ai sea, e le sao. O le, o loia, o e loia whakohanga kau loia i ang Samoanga ngā. Ko whakohanga kau, kano mai le aso 5 a me, lai ka akia le mako whaukuanga ma le mako submission i le Select Committee. That's about, 100 pages. Fōlinga mai, lau wha mai, e lei ma se sia mako whai se mea. E sao ngā whamakananga, le ai. A yengi kāka le langolango inga, e lau sing ni Samoa, e sao ngā whamakalanga. O ia i ai le pule al kāka Samoa. O ia. Ni ai. So, i le kūranga lawa i l'ofisiri. E amanga ia whamakalanga ngā. E le amanga ia ngeka ngaka i whamakalanga se sei. Ma ni whamakalanga ni mafu whawhapenga. Ma le whaalualu lava.
How can you assure members of the public what would happen in the future? And from your expectation that this bill will be passed in Parliament, how can you assure the public in the future
After mo whawsili, au tūlanga lawa ia. Mākou society alo ia. Le wa ka penga o ngā lulue o whaali matu whautuanga matu tā ofi e whaasanga i tula whono i atulu. We can't control the political process. That's not our job. But what our job is, and o le mele ka kia makukula whono, e whaini matu whaukuanga i ni tula whono tau whaofi, e whailoa ma whaatupu manatu. I le atu no whalau e tele pa whapeo lo iai ni atu ngā lunga po i tūlanga whale tono tūlafono tau whaofi. We've done that. A whapea le i atoa i le sila le atu no. Whamaluru atu. Paua le mena o iei matu malosi, but we can't control all those other things. That's not our role and it's not our brief.
I overheard when I was walking in a prominent member of your body saying that your meeting today with the Select Committee was a waste of time. Is that a quote?
No, it's not a quote. We're part of a process. They thought that we weren't helping. We thought that they weren't listening. But that is part of the process. And the main thing from our point of view is that we had an opportunity to express a view. They didn't like it, but we expressed the view. And I think that's the most important part of the process, is your freedom to express that view, and that they are sitting there as a group that can do something about it. Whether or not they choose to do that, that's their job. Our job, present what we think. We finished doing that.
Se tasele ai o le tau whina o le whai nei e rea tau tani mai o luu la whana tu mai o ia whamawai fo ia le whionga le sui pani, e se tasina ai maurunga tu lorani, a le fesili, ai le I tuna I mai tuna fono nei, I suppose it to fo ia I le vai le sala na io. Ai le tuna I mai ia le pili le nei, sa kuia o tōtu tōna pani mene, I nisio sofa I mai pani mene, le rata le society alo ia whapea fo I nisio lo ia le whina sa mua na wana whionga le pani mia. O le whinauma ne whai nei, e le o a fia I lo ia uma. Wana o se paenga pia le fasino mai na ia ma o tō e fasino mai e sa mana whiona. E ngāra sa mana fasitani.
Ia whaftai mo le whafsiri. Tai mo le whafsiri lani. Ia o mātou manino le lei saunoanga whaiso o le whionga le parimia e whatatau le ilo ia. Ia pe ona saunoa manino Taulapapa. E le a whaina na saunoanga. E pule whaitalia lava na a le tai o tatu atunu. Ia I ona la fonga e whai. Pe a whai ia ponotanga al parimene. Ai o le vala lea o lo fisili pe po o le anganga lea o lo ia umon matu society le o matu momoli ina I tai I le komiti whapitoa o le matu tali atu sa o le o te ioe atu I lo tali langi ona o le awala sa whatino ina ai le tape na ino le matu folasanga tustusia sa tape na ina se awala whatino kalasi o te taritonu ele o toe ta wol fatimu kalasi tono ni siva ai ngol tatu malo ai to tono le society o loia ma to te fata wa ina le fatimu kalasi e tu watu le folasanga ia se ata o le folasanga ma manatu o le ai I sui umala wal matu society e faali mai ia alato manatu ma sa fa pena on fight to tele ia sui o le matu society faali manatu mai e iwaenga sa le awai e nisi e iwaenga sa lato talia atoa ia ai sa tule avanoa ia o le folasanga la le sa matu ona nei momoli taile I le komiti o te whapea atu o le folasanga na o lo awai uma ia sui o matu society a whai e se sui ele I awai e lona finangalo I matu folasanga ia o te whapea atu sa tu ai le avanoa whaari mai pe awai ese ia ai le isi sino whapena ona au ese ai sa na o le lango lava sa whaari mai e iai le isi whaenga I o te whiata ua langi na mai al matou whairoa inga mua mari komiti I le ia Julai I amatanga o Julai sa matou whisanga I mua I mari komiti I le taimina ua whawao tunu o le ua langalangana ta upun nei to te le tangata u whaari manatu a mata foi ona au mai ia la fonga na ale a whionga le ni parimia e tua ia matou I le matou langa I mesese o le matou tau whaafefe le atunu ia uman matou whiro inga mua sa whaatino lava I whai ungo Julai ia le matou whonutanga whaare tausanga ale society alo ia o le avanoa le na sa toe palo taina ia le laulau whaatonu o le matou society ia ma o te tau atu mo le amiotonu sa awai lava ia sui active members al matou society le aso lea I le matou whonutanga sa palo taina ia le matou council ia le matou laulau whaatonu ia ma o le tala moni lava sa toe whaatuwina le matou laulau lea sila mai o lo nonofo atu sa toi whaatuwina le matou society ma le whaamatalanga ma le talosanga ia matou whaauau I ngā ruenga lea I le tofinga lea matou te o mai whapitoa lava e whaauau le matou ngā ruenga lea o whainei lumole o le komiti o parimene so that was a unanimous decision e le aise sina awai ese I le whaatuwina o le matou komiti sa awai uma foi lo ia le malo na o le tō rua lava lo ia o te manatuele awai ia le sa matou whea ngai tai nei I le komiti ia a o lo ia uma le malo sa awai sa latou awai whaatasi e toi whaauau le matou komiti ina ia whaamae au ngā ruenga lea, ngā ruenga tā ua lea, e tā ua mo le society, tā ua mo le atu atua. A whapela e se manatu, e le o mātou o lo ia o mo le society. Ia, e tautala lava tangata le tu tono le society, o te whapea atu, o langona uma ia, ma whina ngalo uma ia a mātou sui, le o mātou mo mori ina. Aftai.
La popo toa le sanoanga le Leiatau. O le lawa na tula ma noi sui uma e fa le la to fina ngalo. Ia no atakunia lo taimi. Ia le lawa o mo moli lo e matou ia le masui ia fina ngalo le. Ia tu foi sisi tu le foi lawa exercise le mako communal rights as a law society. Mo moli e la fina ngalo au tasile sa to fia e matou.